are well into 2024, and it's time to cut some people off. It is time to let some of those so-called friends fall off to the wayside. Hola, hola, hola a todos. Es tu prima favorita, Bobby here, and welcome back to the Cousins Corner if you are not new here. And if you are new here, welcome to my channel. I am tu prima favorita, Bobby, and I just like to talk. Guess what crossed my mind that I wanted to talk about today is friends. I talk quite a bit about friends, having a good foundation of friendships or social circles, especially in your adulthood, how important that is to your life, how important that is to your overall well-being, especially as an adult trying to navigate the craziness of this world. But I also want to make sure that I touch on the other side of that, which is also when it's time to let certain friends go, when it's time to stop calling people friends, when it's time to move on and elevate in your life, right? And that can be a pretty hard place to be sometimes, especially when you've been through a lot with certain people, or when they were there for you in certain times, or even when you've just known people, so y'all have history together, and it could be really hard to say like, hey, I'm gonna scale back from this friendship, or I'm going to cut this person off completely. And if you are stuck at some certain crossroads, or you're a little bit confused, you need a little bit more of a push or a little bit more information to make a well-informed decision, no fret, tu prima favorita is here for you with a couple of just key things that you can really think about to see, is this friendship still serving me in the way that I need to, or am I still serving it in the way that I need to? And make your decision based off of that. So I'm not gonna hold you for too long, but I do have about 4 major things or major signs that it's time to let that issue go. It's time to cut the cord, cortarlo. It's time to let go of that so-called friendship. And if anything, at least scale back just a bit to give yourself some space to really process, space to grieve, space to grow, space to make your exit, or whatever the case may be. So without further ado, we're gonna get into these 4 things or 4 signs that you can use to help you determine if a friendship is still valuable to your life, if it's still worth holding on to, or if it's time to déjalo. So I would say sign number 1 is negative impact and or emotional drain. So this could look like several different things, but if this person is starting to feel more like stress on your life versus you being happy or excited to see them or hang out with them or talk to them, if this person is bringing stress into your life personally, like stress is now knocking at your door, drama is now knocking on your door, or if this person just always has negative things to say, has negative things that are going on, is leaning on you for support that you're not necessarily able to offer, whether it be because of your time or whether it be because of the certain things that you're also going through or dealing with. These could be things to consider. And of course, we all go through different times in our life where we need to lean on our friends for certain things. But if this person is continually having a negative impact on your life, where they're bringing you stress, or they're bringing you sadness, or they're bringing you frustration, and you're starting to see it within a pattern, this might be a time for you to reevaluate what that friendship looks like, whether it be you need to pull back a little bit, or whether it be you need to completely cut that person off. This also goes into the emotional side of it. If you are realizing that when I hang out with this person, I'm always left feeling drained emotionally, like I feel like I have nothing more to give, I'm not happy. And granted, again, so we're not always going to be happy when we see our friends, right? Because there's going to be times where we just need to be there for each other because it's not a happy time. But if you're consistently seeing that each time I hang out with this person, like I'm left feeling like a shell of myself, like I feel like they're draining my energy, or they're draining my joy, or I spend so much time and mental energy trying to help them through their problems, help them through their finances, help them with their relationships, help them with their drama, whatever the case may be, then that might not be a friendship that you want to stick around for much longer, simply because if it's taking more of a negative and more of a negatively emotional toll on your life and on you personally, then the friendship isn't really feeding you. And that's something that we need to realize, right? We sometimes can put it on ourselves to be like, no, I need to be here. And because I'm the strong friend, everybody comes to me and I need to be that emotional support. And I'm not gonna say that there's inherently anything wrong with that. But what I will say is, if you're finding yourself in that same place, in that same position with this particular person or these particular people over and over and over again, and it's not feeding you in any positive way, you might need to take yourself out of that equation. Number 2 is lack of support and or one-sided effort or care. So this could look like your friends are not supporting you, or they're not there for you in your times of need, even though you're there for them in their time of need, right? Or they're not supporting you in happy times or being joyous with you, or they don't care about your achievements, or they don't care about your overall well-being. And then on the flip side, you care so much about theirs, right? You show up for them. You're there when they need you. You're there to celebrate with them. You're there to honor them and make them feel great with their achievements, but you're not getting that same reciprocated back to you. That could be a sign that it's also time to reevaluate the friendship. Our friendships that we create, especially in our adulthood, because it's, it's a big pivotal time in our lives where we're continuing to evolve and to learn and to grow every single day, believe it or not. And if we don't have people that are there to support us the way that we support them every step of the way, then that is not fair. It only makes life harder. And why would I want a friendship that makes my life harder? Why would I want somewhere where I'm continually pouring into and nothing's getting poured back into me? And I have a love-hate relationship with the idea that relationships are transactional, but when you really think about it, they actually are. And your greatest relationships, the most fulfilling relationships, are relationships where you give and get equally. This doesn't mean that you should go into these relationships expecting, like, if I'm giving, I should be getting. No, it should just be an understood agreement. It should just be a natural flow of giving and receiving. I'm here for you. I show up for you. I support you. I love you. I honor you. I celebrate you. And all those things should be done in return. And if you're finding yourself in spaces where you don't feel like that, you don't feel supported by this friend, you don't feel loved by this friend, you don't feel like you can celebrate your achievements or your accomplishments with them, then are they really your friend? Number 3 would be growing apart or misaligned values, right? We are always evolving and growing and continuing to find ourselves in who we are, who we want to be, and who we are becoming. And one thing that you have to realize, especially as an adult, is that you are going to grow apart from people. You just are. Some people, you're going to grow so far apart that y'all cannot even really connect in a genuine way anymore, or an intentional way anymore, because you have grown so far apart. Some people, you're gonna grow apart in the sense that, oh, we used to be super, super close, but now we just talk here and there, or now we just hang out when this person comes to town, or whatever the case may be. And some people you just never grow apart from, because no matter how near or how far they are, y'all are just aligned. But one of the important things to know is that not everything is permanent in this life, right? Even you and I are not permanent. We will not be here forever. Feelings aren't permanent. I don't want to say that friendships aren't permanent, because again, there are people that you are friends with for life, right? But then it's also understanding that you do grow apart from people because we each have our own different paths of life, right? And sometimes those paths don't align. And so if you're finding yourself where it's like, we used to connect because we used to do these really cool things together that we both thought were fun, and now I'm at a different stage in my life, or this person is at a different stage in their life, and we're not connecting in any way before as we were before. We don't have the same things in common. I'm not gonna say that that's a telltale sign that you should cut the friendship, because again, sometimes it's just like we just don't hang out as much as we used to because we don't connect on things. But if we want to think as to more of a where you should draw that line and where you should cut it, think about those spaces or those friends where it is because of negative things, right? Let's say that, just for instance, you've given your life over to religion, and you still have a friend who is out here in the world. Well, y'all might have been real close when you were out there in the world and you were doing all these things and running the streets and doing whatever, but now that you've given your life over to Christ or whatever your religion is, y'all cannot operate the same. And so either your friend is going to come to your side or you're going to go back to their side, and that's going to have to be a decision that you make. You know, do I want to steer on my straight and narrow, or do I want to waver, or do I want to spend all this time trying to convince my friend, knowing that they're not going to come over to this side to try to be over here or try to maintain this friendship? It's going to be really hard. And that's just an example, because those friendships can just as well work. Y'all just don't do, you know, the worldly stuff together, right? Another example could be if you have a friend who has different morals and values than you. And by morals and values, I mean the way that you live your life. If you know that doing A, B, C, and D are important to you, or not doing A, B, C, and D are important to you, and you have a friend who lives by DCBA and on, that might be a really hard line that you have to draw. That might be somebody that you have to reconsider. Well, my morals and values just don't, to my core of my being, who I am, just do not align with what this person is doing. And I'll say that as a person who has come across this and is semi going through this right now, where there are certain friendships that I'm having to reevaluate. And again, you know, in my adulthood, as I learn and I grow and I evolve, and the people around me learn and grow and evolve, or stay stagnant, because that also happens, I have to make certain decisions of how close do I want to remain with this person, knowing that at my core, at my being, at the things that I stand on as a person, this person does not align on. And because of that, we are going to bump heads, and we do bump heads. And it gets to a point where it's like, is it worth keeping this friendship? And I'll just say, for me, getting just a little bit personal with it, I'm not at a point where I'm like, oh, I'm gonna cut this person off because we have different values. I'm just at a point where it's like, there are just certain things that we can do together, certain conversations that we can have together, certain, you know, ways that we can vibe together. And then there are ways that I don't want no parts of that, you know? And so it's up to you ultimately to decide if it's like, this is something I need to break away from, or this is something that I need to not necessarily remove myself from, but take some space from, you know, or have a conversation, because of course that's also an option as well. But if you know your friends, if you know those people, you know, as well as you think you do, you know for certain that they're not going to change, or that y'all are not going to come to a middle ground, that's where this conversation comes into play. That's where these thoughts of, do I continue to remain friends with that person, or do I cut this off, or do I just pull myself back? That's where that comes in. But I really like to highlight this number 3, just because what you stand on as a person, your morals and values, are extremely important. They are extremely important. That is how you build successful relationships. That is how you build foundations for successful relationships. So if you know that at your core and at that person's core, y'all do not line up in certain things that are fundamentally important for you, for your lifestyle, for where you're going, for where you want to be, for who you see yourself as, you really have to think about who it is that you allow yourself to be around. You have to think about the spaces you allow yourself to be in, and you have to think about the people that you allow into your space and into your energetic field. So sometimes it is going to be, it just means that I can't hang out with this person when they go, you know, do their stuff or turn up or whatever the case may be, because I'm on this type of path, I'm in this type of mindset, I don't do this, or I don't hang out there, or whatever. Other times it's like, this is their everyday, this is what they do, this is who they are, and I don't want to be associated with that. So it's really up to you to take some time and really think about, where is that hard line? Is it a soft line, or is it a straight up cut on the line? So think about that. Think about that. And the final point, my 4th point that I am going to touch on this topic today, is betrayal. Now, betrayal can be a slippery slope. It can also be a wavering line, and it depends on who you are as a person, what your boundaries look like, and then what that betrayal looks like. So I'm not gonna say, oh, they stepped on your foot when you were wearing your new shoes, you can't be friends with them no more, right? But if they did it on purpose, maybe you need to have a conversation of why they thought that was funny or why they thought that was okay, right? And I'm just using that as an example. I would say, as far as betrayal and deciding whether or not you want to remain friends with someone, you need to look at the betrayal itself. You need to look at the action that was done. And is this something that continues to happen? Do they continue to betray you? Do they continue to slight you? Do they continue to laugh at your pain or poke fun at you or embarrass you or whatever the case may be? Is it a continual thing? And then also looking at, are they doing this deliberately? Are they doing this on purpose? Are they doing this to hurt you? Or are they doing this because, you know, just even though some of us are like way too grown to be doing this, some people just aren't there all the way. So there are certain things that they think are funny or certain things that they might have grown up with in their life that they think is okay. And y'all just need to have a conversation of like, hey, I know you and your family grew up talking to each other like that, but this is not the way that I operate, and I don't feel good when I'm talked to that way, right? Sometimes it's just as little as that. And then other times it's like, hey, I realize that you keep slighting me in these little ways that don't seem so little anymore, or they don't seem so little to me. So having a conversation about those things to see where y'all are, if that person is really willing to hear you out, or if it's just straight up like, this person keeps texting your man, or I would hope you're not staying friends with somebody who's doing that, or this person keeps like down talking you when you're not there, or they don't take up for you in spaces when you're not there or able to speak up for yourself, or whatever the case may be. Then it's like some things are not necessarily worth a conversation, because some things people just flat out know what they're doing, and they're going to continue to do it if you allow them to continue to get away with it. So really just looking at what is that betrayal. And I don't want you to think that you have to push it down like, oh, I'm being too sensitive, like they just play when they do this. Like, no, remember that your feelings are valid. And although you might really care about this person, or you might really care about this connection, this might be, you know, your only friend, or whatever the case may be, you have to be a bigger friend to yourself than to anybody else. And so if you are realizing that within yourself, within your core, this doesn't feel good when this person does this thing, or it feels like betrayal, or it feels like a slight, you need to be willing to talk to that person. Or if it's something that's like over your line, your boundary, you need to be willing to cut it, to nip it in the bud, because they will continue to do it. So the betrayal part, that's up to you to figure out how big something is or how little something is. I will say though, with all of these things, while I say that these are things you need to look for to know whether you want to cut a friendship off or not, a conversation, if you feel like it's worth it, if you really do feel like that's something that you can have with this person to kind of talk about where y'all are, a conversation would be the first step. And then if y'all are past the point of conversations and you keep seeing these behaviors, if y'all are past the point of conversation because what they did was so outlandish or so great, then you really need to sit and think about, what are my next steps to pull myself away from this situation, to distance myself from this person, or to completely cut this person out. And then go find some better friends, which is easier said than done, but not impossible. So don't think that, oh, this is the only person I hang out with, this is the only friend I have, I'm never gonna, don't think like that. Limiting beliefs, we don't want, quítalos. We don't want those here. But I'm not going to ignore the fact that it is difficult to make friends in your adulthood if you're not, you know, that social or in a lot of spaces that warrant you to connect with other people. But difficult does not mean impossible. And just because that one trash friend is the only person you're around, that doesn't mean that you should still continue to be around them if they are not bringing any value into your life, or y'all are not bringing value to each other's life. And if you are the friend on the opposite side of this, and this spoke to you in some type of way because you are treating people this way, bye. Stop it. But also evaluate yourself as well, especially when you're thinking about continuing or discontinuing a friendship, right? Am I showing up intentional? Am I being there for this person? Are they reflecting the behaviors that I'm giving to them? Do I slight my friends? Do I betray my friends? Am I always like coming to them with the negativity and the drama? Because sometimes people are really just mirroring us, right? And it's like, well, you only call me when you're sad and when you need somebody to talk to, or when you're going through some craziness. So I only call you when I'm sad or need somebody to talk to or going through some craziness, because I thought that was the type of friendship this was, you know? So that's why I say it's important to have conversations with people to see where they are, but also make sure that at each step in each of these categories, you're also evaluating yourself and how you show up as well. Because sometimes people are just giving you back the same energy that you give them. We're in 2024. Y'all know everybody's about keep that energy, give back the same energy, blah, 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 all of that. I have my thoughts on that too. But I say all that to say that if you are stuck in a place where you are really thinking about certain friendships, where you're really thinking about certain connections that you have with people, I hope that this makes it a little bit easier to kind of navigate those things and to also kind of draw you into yourself to really think about how you're showing up in these friendships, and if the way that people are treating you is warranted, or is it being reciprocated, or are you just a bomb ass friend and they are just crappy people. But anyway, please feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe, drop your comments down below, because I would love to hear your take on this. And again, thank you for joining me, tu prima favorita, Bobby, here in the Cousins Corner, and I will see you next time. Bye.